how the heck did you get a deal in 14 days? Because it took me, I think, at least 9 months in order from the moment I was like, I'm going to do this, and I started taking action. And then the moment where I actually did that deal, it took me probably 9 months. And I'm really curious, in your mind, what did you do that made you so successful so quickly?
The DealMachine REI Podcast. Everything you need to know to get started in real estate investing.
Before, you weren't working with your wife. Now you are, right? So you actually get to spend quite a bit more time together.
Oh man, yeah. Even the trips, like going on the business trips together, being in masterminds together and going and learning together, it has changed. I mean, you do spend a lot of time together at home, and you run into all you do is talk about real estate. And on New Year's, you play cash flow games. But it becomes a part of your life, and it's fun.
So for those of you who may not know, the cash flow game was something that was really impactful for me and my journey as well. There's a book. Many of you have read it. When I am standing in a room and I say, how many real estate investors started with this book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad? At least 70% of the people raise their hand. So if you haven't read that book, that's a great one to put on your list. There's a companion game that goes with it that's actually a free game online, or an actual physical board game, but it's the same game from what I understand. And I played the one online personally. It is like Monopoly, but it's
an online game.
It's free. Yeah, the board game I think is pretty cool too, but the online one's great. And so you play this during New Year's. And what it taught me was the object of the game is to get out of the rat race. So you have opportunities to buy stocks, and the way the stocks work in the game is like, you have a stock and it trades between $10 and $40. And let's say it's at $40. It says, do you want to buy the stock? And, so you could choose to buy it or not. And later in the game, you might hit a square that says this stock is now worth $10, or vice versa. Or you can buy a rental property, and some of them cash flow and some don't. But essentially you build up your passive income until your passive income exceeds your living expenses. And then that's whenever you advance in the game. So that's what it taught me, was the concept of cash flow and how that can get you out of the rat race and to get you a little bit more control over some of the things that you were talking about in your life, such as having to put your phone in a drawer at work, which really annoyed you, and having more time with your family and to be able to go on trips. But I'm curious, do you still play that game even now? Because you're kind of playing it in real life.
Oh yeah, dude, we played that game like 3 nights in a row last week.
That's fun.
And it's fun, but it can be a very frustrating game because like we all have the knowledge base. Okay, I know how the game works, but I cannot tell you the number of times that I'm like getting put in a very challenging little pickle. And then I'm like, man, I'm not good at this real estate investing game. And then like the next game, I'm like out of the rat race first, and I have all this passive income. I feel like a baller. And then it's cool because you actually can take those game experiences and you can make them like what you're doing in real life. Like, oh my gosh, here's a small opportunity, and here's the cash flow that can go with that small opportunity. And you play the game in real life and it will work. Yeah. It teaches you how to evaluate a deal. Like there's so much cool stuff with it. It's Monopoly, but on steroids.
Yeah, it's inspiring. And one of the ways that you win the game, there's 2 ways. One of the ways is that you make your passive income like 10 times more than your living expenses. Essentially, you just become really rich and you win. Right. The other thing is it's like you get like a big amount of cash flow and then you win. The other way is like once you get out of the rat race, then you can choose one of your dreams, and they have 20 dreams. And the dream I always liked the most was take 10 of your friends, 20 of your friends on an African safari, all expenses paid. And today, I think that would cost probably $10,000 per person. So if I took 10 friends, it'd be like $100,000. So that could be another way that you win the game, is you build up your passive income, and then you land on that opportunity to make that happen. And I always thought that would be a really amazing goal of mine in real life, to go take 10 of my friends to do that. And it's helpful to expand your mind on what's actually possible. And I haven't done that yet. I don't feel like I'm quite at the moment to do that.
Am I on that list of the 10 that's going?
Yeah, I think you're definitely on the list. Absolutely. And
let's go.
If you guys are listening to this, I would love to hear some feedback on if you have any amazing ideas, because I always get inspired by hearing these. What's your dream that you would have to have the money plus also the alignment of the opportunity to make it happen? I would love to hear that. And you can tweet me at Tweeting David, or on the Spotify platform, there's a comment section. So would love to hear from you guys either of those ways. Ryan, before we transition, because I did want to share a little bit about my story. One of the things I think is so unique about you, you've done a lot of wholesale deals and you use that to build up a lot of cash. And so you've done more deals than me for sure. But sometimes people can also learn from somebody who's done less deals. Okay, that's what I tell myself. And so I wanted to get into that just briefly to show what can be done at a smaller scale as well. But was there anything else that you wanted to say before we wrapped up your part of the story?
No, I just think that it's important for everybody that's listening, whatever your motivator is or your why, whatever you're in this journey or why, whatever reason you're listening to this podcast, I hope that if anything, you can take away that if you're in a position where you want to change the trajectory of your life and your income, that I'm hoping that my story, I'm hoping that David's story is a motivator to help get you there. And I hope that we can give you the proper steps to get you there, because it was not what I expected my life to be, but I can stand here 3 years later and say, man, that changed my life. And it wasn't like I didn't have to go to college for 10 years to figure out how to do this. Like, there wasn't a ton of studying that I had to do, but it's a task that people can do, and we want to help you get there. So I think that would be the only thing, but I'm excited to hear, David, about yours, because what you have done has impacted what I've done. So I want to hear it. I want to hear how you got there.
There's one piece I wanted to ask you before we moved on too, was that is a very, very fast timeline that you succeeded at.
Yeah.
I think one thing that I'm curious about genuinely is how the heck did you get a deal in 14 days? Because it took me, I think, at least 9 months in order from the moment I was like, I'm going to do this, and I started taking action. And then the moment where I actually did that deal, it took me probably 9 months. And I'm really curious, in your mind, what did you do that made you so successful so quickly?
Well, the first deal was the outlier deal. The first deal was the deal that it is part of the whole of the 30-day challenge, and you're telling people what you're doing. Like, hey, I'm investing in real estate. I'm looking for distressed properties. And that conversation led to, hey, I know of a distressed property. The guy wants to sell it. It was a fire damaged house, and he just wants to get rid of it. And so I knew that person. And so reaching out to them made the conversation a little bit easier, because I'm like, hey, so-and-so told me that you have a house that was fire damaged that you want to sell. And I am in a position where I'm looking to acquire properties that are distressed and need work. And so that's how that first deal came about. After that, part of the wholesaling challenge was getting a marketing routine set and sending postcards and cold calling and doing those things. And that's what set up the snowball of the 72 deals after that were all because of what we had accomplished in the 30-day wholesaling challenge and what we had done using certain apps. I'll let you talk about that. But yeah, that first deal was it was a conversation, telling somebody, hey, this is what I'm doing. And they just happened to know somebody that had that exact thing that I was looking for.
For those of you that don't know what wholesaling is a great way to start in real estate investing, because it doesn't require that you have money to actually buy the house. You spend some time having conversations like Ryan did to find a house that's run down. And when it's run down, typically they'll provide you a discount greater than what it would cost you to actually fix it up. And they do that because they may not have the time or money to fix it up themselves, and they may need the cash. So they'll provide you a discount, and then you, as the real estate investor, provide them speed and convenience to be able to get it under contract and close. Now, did you actually wholesale this house, or did you actually buy it?
Yeah, we wholesaled this house.
Okay.
And the whole process, I mean, I think it was ended up being a 30-day, but we got it under contract in 14. And then by the time it had closed right before Christmas. So like we were on that line of, we need to make this much money every month in order to supplement our income.
I wanted to say, for me, I've actually never wholesaled a property in my entire life. So I always like hearing about the wholesaling stories. I'm going to ask you some questions. I've been around a lot of wholesalers though, and probably 10,000 people, the last time I checked, have used an app I created to close deals, many of them being wholesale deals. So I've been around wholesaling quite a lot since 2016, since I wrote the first line of code for this app, and have been working on it ever since. The whole reason why I made the app was a mistake. It wasn't really meant to be a business at all, even though it turned into a very nice one. For me, I would say my journey started back in high school. I noticed that certain kids had these really nice cars. I'm thinking of one in particular. It was like an MR2 Spider. It was shiny and blue and new. And I actually had a car too, which I'm very thankful for. I didn't even have to pay for it. It was a 96 Chevy Lumina, and it was very, very nice to have that. But I was like, how do these other kids have these really nice sports cars? I mean, I just think that is so cool. And I had that question a lot. And that started me thinking about, like, what are some ways of thinking that got them there, or their parents there, and how could I apply that and learn that? Because I'm motivated by just like wanting to experience that type of stuff. I know you said you're not too flashy. I'm not too flashy either, but I might be a little more flashy than you. I do like stuff. And I think sometimes stuff itself provides an experience, and I like that. That's definitely been
it's
a
totally
motivation
cool to
for
be
me.
that way too. Like, I mean, now in the world, it's like you become a little bit more open to things that you didn't think were possible. So
Right.
that I think
And that's inspiring.
I've
That's
definitely
exciting to me.
changed that way. Yeah, for sure. It's huge. Like it gives you a different opportunity, and you get to do different things that you didn't think you'd have a chance to do. So, I mean, that's cool. I like that you're a little flashier than me.
I appreciate that. I always try to tell it with a story as well, to share more than just the flash, so somebody can take something away from that. But that got me thinking, and I was very interested in how do I advance my career at the time. And I was very turned on to the idea of investing. And so as soon as I went to college to become an engineer, my band teacher had actually given me a copy of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And that changed a few things about how I think. And I knew that time was on my side if I could just start funneling money into investments. And I was doing like a Roth IRA with like a, stocks at the time, that eventually I would reach a point where maybe I could retire a little bit early. After some years, I had gotten a job and was still trying to funnel that money away. But my boss at the time, he had rental properties. And I said, why do you have rental properties instead of, my world was like, hey, I'm just trying to put this money in this IRA and these stocks. And what he said always stuck with me. He said that if you manage the rental properties well, they will always cash flow, unlike the stock market where you have little control over if it goes up or down. And so I thought about that, and I still think about that to this very day, because that was an impactful statement that he probably didn't even realize. I actually decided that I was going to go looking for a rental property after playing that cash flow game. I have the first property that I got was a primary residence.
Thanks for listening to the DealMachine Real Estate Investing Podcast. Please leave us a review and follow along wherever you're listening to your podcast.